Imagine a place where the screams still echo, long after the patients are gone. What if the very walls absorbed the fear, the pain, the despair of those trapped within an abandoned asylum? We're about to step inside, where unsettling experiments and forgotten souls might still linger. They say some places never truly let go of their past. This isn't just an abandoned building. It's a monument to forgotten suffering and chilling medical malpractice. Prepare yourself, because the stories whispered within these decaying asylum walls are far more terrifying than any ghost story. Some places whisper secrets, but this one screams, "Welcome to Ravenwood Asylum, a monument to forgotten suffering." When it first opened its doors in the late 19th century, Ravenwood stood as a beacon of hope, a grand institution built to heal the troubled mind. But behind the iron gates and whitewashed walls, the truth was far more unsettling. Society at the time viewed mental illness not as a condition to be understood, but as a moral failure to be contained. The cure often meant confinement, silence, and obedience treatments that now seem unthinkable. Ice baths, electroshock without anesthesia, isolation cells, were then considered progressive science. Families brought loved ones here believing they'd be helped. Many never saw them again. Walking these corridors today, you can still feel it. The weight of lives misunderstood, voices never heard, and experiments carried out in the name of medicine. This is not just the story of one asylum. It's a mirror held up to the past, a time when ignorance wore the mask of care. Inside these walls, the line between care and control was easily blurred. The very same hands that promised healing often delivered harm. The early 20th century was a time of experimentation, when mental health was treated less as a science of compassion and more as a laboratory of obedience, ice water immersion, insulin shock therapy, lobotomies, each justified as treatment, each stripping patients of their dignity, autonomy, and sometimes their lives. Patient records recovered from these institutions tell haunting stories, handwritten notes begging for release, files marked incurable after a single violent outburst, signatures replaced with fingerprints because patients were not considered competent to write their own names. Yet, in the midst of this darkness, voices began to rise. Reformers like Dorothea Dix in the United States and Philippe Pinel in France questioned the cruelty disguised as care. They fought for one radical idea, that the mentally ill were human beings deserving of respect. Slowly, laws began to change. The Mental Health Act of 1959, the UN Declaration of Human Rights 1948, and later, the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities 2006, laid the groundwork for what we now recognise as basic patient rights: informed consent, humane treatment, and the right to refuse. But these reforms came too late for many. The architecture of asylums still tells the story: narrow corridors designed for control, iron bars on windows, padded rooms meant for silence. Every wall still holds the echo of a time when suffering was institutionalized. These buildings remind us that progress is fragile, and that the fight for dignity in mental health care is not a chapter closed, but one still being written. Decades after the wards were emptied, the air inside still feels heavy. Visitors say the silence here isn't empty, it listens back. Former staff recall the unease that never left them. A night nurse once described hearing footsteps pacing the hallway, long after the last patient was gone. An urban explorer captured whispers, soft, indistinct, yet pleading, echoing from a sealed isolation wing. Parapsychologists call it residual energy, the theory that powerful emotion, especially pain, can imprint itself on a place, like a photograph burned into the walls. In institutions like these, where despair, fear, and longing once collided daily, that energy may linger, unseen, but not unfelt. The concept of psychic trauma suggests that trauma is not confined to the human mind. It can saturate space itself. Rooms that once witnessed cruelty seem colder. Corridors that held suffering distort sound. Instruments long unused still hum faintly, as if remembering the hands that held them. During recent investigations, cameras caught sudden shadows darting across the surgery wing, shapes moving against the direction of light. Sensitive microphones recorded low-frequency moans no human ear could detect. Science may dismiss these as coincidence, as tricks of acoustics or light. But standing here, in the stillness with the walls breathing stories long buried, you begin to wonder, can a building remember pain? Or are we simply hearing the echo of what we refuse to forget? When the patients were gone, the walls didn't fall silent. The corridors still hum with something, almost alive. Former attendants speak of lights flickering in patterns, of wheelchairs rolling down empty halls. One caretaker swore he heard a voice calling his name from the hydrotherapy room, a room sealed for decades. Urban explorers describe a suffocating heaviness, as if the building itself were watching. Some believe these are echoes of what once was, psychic imprints, residues of agony and fear absorbed by the very structure. According to theories of psychic trauma, human emotion, when intense enough, does not vanish. It stains the environment, bending sound, light, and perception. Inside asylums like these, where suffering was both studied and ignored, every wall became a witness. The isolation cells where patients screamed into silence, the shock rooms where electricity replaced empathy, each corner bears invisible fingerprints of despair. Modern researchers in parapsychology suggest that trauma can manifest spatially. That means the same energy once locked inside the human mind can now exist in the room itself, replaying fragments of pain like a broken record. During a recent investigation, thermal cameras recorded sudden drops of temperature in rooms once used for restraints. Audio devices caught indistinct weeping where no one stood. A dark outline, almost human, appeared in a window frame seconds before vanishing. Skeptics dismiss it as coincidence, pipes expanding, shadows bending. But perhaps what we call haunting is simply memory in another form, the mind of a building still processing the pain it once contained. In the end, the walls of Ravenwood stand not as ruins, but as reminders. Every scar in the concrete, every rusted bed frame, every locked door tells a story of what happens when humanity confuses control with care. For those who lived and worked here, the asylum was more than a building. It was a world, one that shapes their days, their fears, and their memories long after the gates closed. Some former staff still avoid the topic entirely. Others return in silence, leaving flowers on the steps where they once walked patients to therapy that never healed. The lingering presence here may not just be spirits. It may be the echo of guilt, of grief, of lessons unlearned. As light cuts through broken windows, we're reminded that these places force us to look inward. They challenge us to ask, how far have we really come in understanding the mind, and how easily could we repeat the same mistakes under a different name? Today, this asylum stands quiet but not forgotten. Its story is part of ours, a mirror reflecting both our cruelty and our capacity for compassion. So, as you watch these halls fade into darkness, we invite you to reflect. What do you see when you look at an abandoned asylum? A relic of the past or a warning meant for the present?